Miles, would you mind throwing up the results from that first poll question while we move along here? So it looks like, let me take a look here. 38% feel like there is general awareness but limited synergy. So thank you guys for responding to that. And that brings us to the next part of our conversation, which is how do we better connect these teams and align them and achieve that synergy? So I wanted to start with Mark. I want to hear your thoughts here on the characteristics. I'm going to try to cram a couple questions into one overarching question, right? And then we'll go around the horn and get people's responses. What do you think are the characteristics of teams or organizations that excel at process development? What do you think upstream and downstream teams should know about each other's expectations? And where do you see the role of quality in analytical teams bridging this disconnect between upstream and downstream? So I know that's that's kind of a mammoth of a question, but Mark, we'll let you open it up. And while you do, I'm just gonna ask Miles to pose the next poll question to our audience so they can answer that.
All right, well, that was a lot. So tell me what I missed when I'm done. So in terms, excuse me, in terms of, the characteristics of a well-functioning PD team, I think in some ways it's industry independent. In some ways it's specific to biotech. But, and I'll start with some platitudes, right? If people like coming into work, they have a sense of purpose and urgency, that goes a long way. And again, that's a general platitude for sure. But also what's really important, and this happens a lot with upstream and downstream, and I also want to say QA and also formulation, is it's really important to have the ability to disagree agreeably, align, and move forward, because time is precious, and being right is very often overrated. Moving forward is very often not appreciated as valuable as it is. Also, if development people, or at least a few of the development people, have spent some time in GMP clean rooms, so they actually understand the repercussions of their decisions, for their customer, the people in the people in the clean room, that also is really important. Next, and by the way, these are not in any particular order, but next is experience is really important. And it's not just that the individuals have experience, because not everybody needs to, have 20 years experience, but you need to have a few people who this isn't their first, second, or third rodeo. That's really important. The other thing is a team, and I see this, very often with these, companies that, get these mega rounds instead of a traditional, Series A, is you put together a bunch of experienced people, but a bunch of people with 20 years experience who've been working with each other for 3 months are still a young team, and they haven't learned to work together. So it's important that, a well-functioning team usually has experience together. And then the last thing, and I think this is very, very often underappreciated, is both for upstream and downstream. If they've got good analytic support, they make a lot better decisions. And analytics is often underinvested in early on. And to be honest, I think I forgot the other 2 questions.
I think you hit on the high points there. I don't want to bite off more than makes sense to chew. I want to hear everybody else's thoughts on, what makes for good process development, whether it's between teams or at an organizational level. We'll start with, not start, but we'll continue with Brandon. I want to hear your thoughts too, as a, seeing the whole kind of spectrum from your role.
I think I agree with a ton of what Mark said. I was nodding my head a bunch there. I would add in risk tolerance. Some of the biggest improvements that I've seen in my career have come from really big risks. So creating an environment where it's okay to make mistakes, where it's okay to have those kind of collaborative disagreements, is very important to nurture that. If you're constantly in an environment where improvements meet a lot of resistance, there's a low risk tolerance that can kind of really dampen the mood and process development teams. So as leaders, that's something we can be that we can impact quite a bit. On top of making the goals collaborative between upstream and downstream, also make it clear that we're willing to take risks. If speed in phase 1 is the most important thing, how can we go faster? How can we take risks to go faster? If cost of goods is most important for a high volume product or to be competitive on the market, how can we take risks to there, right? Coupled with kind of that holistic approach Mark alluded to with the experience, right? The analytics, big shout out to analytics, especially when you're thinking about improvements. You really need to get ahead of the curve on that one instead of waiting till the end. But having a couple of folks there that can identify the risks early, have those collaborative disagreements early, get people on board together with the overall goal, right? The analytics team, the quality team, the facilities team, the engineering team, any big risk and any big change is going to involve these groups. So getting them involved earlier and creating an environment where it's okay to take the risks. Yeah.
Thanks, Brandon. Doug, you're on my screen right now. Do you want to add anything to that or defer?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I can't underestimate or overstate enough the benefit of having strong analytics involved in all steps, early to late, because there's sometimes the metrics are misaligned between upstream and downstream. If upstream's rewarded for tighter and speed and downstream's rewarded for purity and yield and stability, it might not translate when development continues. And so having analytical people and even QC people sort of for checkpoints along the way can decrease surprises in the future. And I keep mentioning CDMOs because I've worked at a lot of small companies where we use CDMOs, and the data they give you is a tabular data. A lot of times they'll send you a PowerPoint slide and it has the in-process data, for example, and you're like, oh, the glycosylation looks within expectations, high molecular weight seems pretty low, but then you dig in deeper and you ask them to, let's see the actual profiles, and an analytical person can see these profiles and detect something right away, that this is a shift in what we were expecting. This isn't, even though it's within spec overall, there's some issue here with a drift or some new formation of, a certain species that maybe the process development person wouldn't notice. And so it's great to have, strong analytical involvement up front, if anything, just to keep the development people in check.
Great point, Doug. Thank you.
Yeah.
Eric, anything to add there?
Yeah. From mine. So again, all these points are quite informative. It reflects being agile, having your team that's informed, having a team that has multi-tiered experience, having your bench scale scientist, your scale up, scale down engineer, and your routine manufacturing manager all on the same page. But just as much as processes go through a life cycle, the people behind them go through a life cycle as well. So being able to keep the knowledge of how a process works and how, it's not only understanding the how, we in biotech and biopharma, we really define the how very well, but we don't always capture the why very well, I find. So having initiatives for cross-functional or full platform process knowledge transfer and sharing at a routine basis is critical to kind of keep that knowledge level of where it needs to be. So operators, engineers, scientists can act quicker and more agile on the shop floor when problems arise. But in addition to that, also understand how the other areas are working and find new synergies and ways of working to improve what that routine manufacturing state looks like.
Thank you, Eric. Great addition there. Raj, before we get on to the next bit, anything to add there on?
Yeah, one thing I'll kind of connect the dots here, between the panelists. I think, if you have an experienced crew, that experience will then allow you to have a higher risk tolerance. I think that's important. Just having a high risk tolerance in itself doesn't really help, but the experience kind of should lend or enable that risk tolerance. The other point I would like to touch on is, when you're talking about collaboration at the bench level, it's always important if they could cross-train I know a lot of CDMOs do that, but even small companies, because they don't have enough people, they can cross-train. I think when you cross-train, I think half the hard work is already done. They already understand what the other person's need is from a departmental, from a process standpoint. So that kind of sometimes you cannot achieve that in a boardroom, in a meeting, in a technical meeting, because there's not enough time. But when you get down there, help the other person, you kind of learn everything. So I would say, cross training wherever possible is good. And I can remember Mark said it. If you work in GMP, then you are kind of semi on board with QA/QC, and you know what they're looking for. And specifically from a QA/QC standpoint, you are so focused on the processes, you're so, it is required, but you're not paying attention to the incoming raw materials, right? That's where your QA/QC can, check the incoming raw materials and possibly trend them wherever, and then, kind of connect the dots. This is where, the earlier example that I was providing to you, the specs all look good, growth promotion all look good, but then really no one was really paying attention to it, because if a media is released, it means that everything has been met. But that's where QA/QC can really dig deep and then kind of, get into the weeds and say, okay, how do we connect all of this together so that we can inform the why? We can tell you how we can fix it, but we can inform the why, and that enables process understanding. So yeah, it's important.
Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. I'm Tyler Menichello, Chief Editor of Bioprocess Online, and thank you for watching. If you like that, you're going to love all the other content we have for you at Bioprocess Online. From archived live events to long-form videos, short-form videos, podcasts, expert contributed guest columns, newsletters, editorial from me, it's all over there at Bioprocess Online, just waiting for you to dig in. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, head on over to bioprocessonline.com, and I'll see you there.